Ben Habib on behalf of the Permaculture's Next Big Step project here in Australia. You're going to hear now from Ian Lillington and Ed Walta about what's new in the Next Big Step journey.
And the mission of this project is that we're here to serve and facilitate the wider permaculture community.
Well, permaculture's been an amazing mix of anarchic and self-organising people right from the start. But it has a kind of global structure that works, and that's without any government or corporate sponsorship. But as we grow to having millions of people who are doing permaculture, we need to move into a new era where there is more coherence and we have more collaboration between these millions of people doing permaculture. That's why we've been doing this Next Big Step since it began with very humble beginnings in 2012. It was boosted by the APC in Cuba in 2013, and a lot of attention was given to Next Big Step at the International Permaculture Conference in London in 2015.
The permaculture movement is in fact a global social movement, but it doesn't act like one. Countries don't talk to each other, and we're staunchly and ruggedly individual, and that's not helpful if we're trying to solve world problems.
Part of the Next Big Step work back in 2014 and into 2015 was to do a survey, and that led to 260 different permaculture organisations being identified in 140 countries of the world. And in fact, out of the 200 or so countries in the world, we know permaculture is happening in almost all of them, but there are formal organisations in 140 of them. We're working together to help create conditions where everybody's permaculture enterprises can succeed. When people can earn an income from doing permaculture, they can do more of what they want to do. And what's that? Well, they'll do more permaculture. Permaculture's been global from the start. We think it's quite natural that we have more of an organisation now to help people liaise about permaculture around the world.
So I became involved at the International Permaculture Convergence in Cuba back in 2013, and it was clear when I was listening to this conversation as a complete newbie to permaculture that there was a whole lot of animated discussion, and clearly there was a lot of passion there, but there was no process for dealing with all these differences of opinions and perspectives.
Well, we know permaculture does great work on the ground, but apart from international convergences, there's been very little structure to help conversations happen about permaculture around the globe. If we have increased networking, we can have places where permaculture people can better work with each other on things like research, training, media and enterprises. So that's helping us liaise internally with permaculturist to permaculturist. Also, externally, we want to work better with other organisations, our allies, other organisations around the world who are doing like-minded things to permaculture.
After a couple of years now, we're starting to become a lot more globally aligned. The Permaculture Next Big Step group has been able to conduct a number of worldwide surveys, so we're getting a sense of what it is that people want, what they're doing, who they are, and so on.
Who makes this happen?
Well, for the last 2 years, there's been a part-time funded worker in Britain called Naomi. She's been paid through some sponsorship from a charitable trust, and that's going to go on for the next 2 years. So for the first time in permaculture's history, we've had a long-term organised paid worker in place, albeit part-time. It's a very small drop in the ocean, but that's a huge advance on where we were before, which was really that very little international liaison was happening at all. Also, there's been thousands of hours of volunteer time put in. We have a core group made up of 12 or so people from around different countries of the world, and we have a lot of volunteers doing communication and preparation of documents behind the scenes.
At London, we heard a lot about enterprise and right livelihood. People don't have enough money and they can't spend enough time practicing permaculture. And more recently, in my discussions with Virginia Solomon in Permaculture Australia, and also with Robina in New Zealand, we've been talking about the role of national permaculture organisations and how they fit in the constellation model that Ian will be talking about.
Well, at a workshop here in Perth and at previous workshops recently at the European and UK and North American convergences, we've been asking, what is permaculture's unique contribution to the world, and how can we best organise to make sure that we're effective in making that contribution? And that's a workshop that we're running here in Perth as well. By finding out more about how people think these things can happen, and by getting more people involved, we're expanding the next big step up, taking it up another step.
I feel that the constellation model is a framework to collaborate globally. I think it's going to be an excellent start.